Thank you so much for that perspective. Thanks for sharing. I got the goosebumps actually when you were talking through that. Were you in the office prior
I,
to COVID?
I was in the office prior to COVID, but truthfully, I love the remote world, and I never felt super isolated in the office. It wasn't that, but I'm a million times more comfortable in my element, working in a remote world. And it's something that, I unleashed. A lot of people looked at COVID as kind of the end of the world. And, by all means, COVID obviously had a lot of negatives to, outward society. And I'm by no means, saying that was a good thing, but I'm always geared to looking for the good things that are happening and the opportunity that comes from that as well. And so, when I transitioned to the remote world, number one, I saw my performance spike up, and my performance was good before that, but I saw it kind of spike up. And I also saw just my comfort level, my happiness, my overall wellness drive to a peak that it wasn't at before. And so for me, it's hard to kind of weigh out, what I have now versus what I had before.
Yeah, amazing. Tell us what happened on your 13th birthday.
So after, my bout with leukemia, I went into remission, and then I was maybe around 10 when I went into remission. And then a couple of years later, I started having these headaches. I was vomiting, saw a couple of doctors. My dad was really weary of a lot of diagnoses. And then ultimately, he pushed one of the doctors to give me a CAT scan, and they found a golf ball size mass in my right frontal lobe. And at the time, they diagnosed it a brain tumor. They said there's no way it's not a tumor given his history, and it's got to be cancer. I had spent a couple of weeks in the hospital. On my 13th birthday, I had brain surgery to remove the mass, and then when it was removed, they looked at it, and it ended up being what was called a venous hemangioma, essentially a benign blood clot in the right frontal lobe. But in the book, I talk about the moments going into surgery, and then in the recovery room in particular, because if you come out of an intensive neurosurgery like that, you're covered from head to toe and you can't move anything and everything hurts. Breathing hurts, blinking hurts, nothing. You can't do a single thing without everything hurting. And I talk particularly about this moment where I was in the pediatric ICU, and there was another child next to me, and he experienced a seizure. And then everyone in the ICU was kind of running, and a little bit of panic in the room. And I remember having some dark thoughts in that period of like, it's either going to be him or me. And I don't know this person, but I'm literally on what I felt was like my deathbed, and couldn't even look up without, being in extreme pain. Once the morphine wore off and the drugs wore off and I started to kind of come together, I kind of had this moment of, all right, that was the bottom. And that was officially the bottom, not, as bad as the spinal tap was when I was 4, that right there was officially the bottom. And from here, we're not going to tolerate any more bottoms. So I kind of made a promise to myself that anything that you put in front of me from that point forward, I was going to navigate. It went beyond, obviously the recovery room and the surgeries and the treatment and everything like that. It was more of like all right, enough is enough kind of moment.